S&B Monthly is a show about two sisters-in-law who share their love of books. Sometimes they read together, sometimes not. Sometimes horror, but mostly smut. They also spend a lot of time on book talk, fangirling over hockey players, and farming in Stardew Valley. Every month, they review and recommend the books they've read, and chat about other fun topics too. Don't worry, they won't spoil anything. But be warned, the show is not for kids, or for anyone who may be offended by horror or sex talk, or both. Looking at you, Mom. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 3 of S&B Monthly, the Best Worst Book Club. I'm your co-host, Bekk.
And I'm Stephanie.
We're kind of moving up in the world. We got new photos on the website. We got a new intro. You got a new microphone. I'm so proud of us.
I sound so much better. Now you guys can hear me, I think. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see on the playback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you? We haven't talked in a while.
I know. I'm doing good. Nothing too crazy. My kids are in football and school just let out for summer, so we've been busy with all that kind of stuff. But other than that, just watching hockey, which has been a little frustrating, the playoffs for me, because every time I want a team to win, they lose.
Dude, me too. I know. I was like, I'm going to stop rooting for teams because I'm not getting anywhere.
I was like, as long as Florida doesn't go, and there they are. And then I'm like, oh, well, maybe Vegas will win. And then Dallas comes back. I'm like, you know what?
Okay, but
I'm done.
I should say I'm for Dallas because, my brother's name is Dallas. Tyler Sagan's on Dallas.
Yeah,
so,
he is pretty.
But Quick is on Vegas.
Yes,
so
he is. And they beat the Oilers.
Which is always important.
Because I hate them. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go for Vegas. And my husband's going for Vegas too because his hockey man crush is on that.
Phil Kessel?
Kessel. Yes. Hot dog boys.
Man?
Yep. So that's Adam's little man crush. So he's going for Vegas too. But I'm like, I think they're actually going to sweep him. Nah. So we'll see what happens.
A little bit in there.
Right. Because Florida swept the Hurricanes, so crazy.
They also swept the Leafs, so it still stings. But
that was sad.
We deal with this every year, you and I
know
with the Kings fans, the Leafs. Those are our teams. If anybody was even remotely curious, I go for the Leafs. She goes for the Kings, which is funny because I'm the one that lives in Los Angeles, but
Well, the Leafs, I'm glad they finally came a little bit farther. Okay. They did the thing. It was sad when they lost. I was even sad because their fans were acting like they won the cup, and it was just so cute. And
then
with the Kings, I'm like, you get real excited. Like, okay, we made it to the playoffs. I didn't even think this was going to happen. And then we're gone. So it's sad, but it is what it is. We'll get there.
It is. Yeah. And regardless, it's fun to watch.
It is super fun.
Except now I have anxiety for the next 40 days until July 1st to figure out what is going on with Austin Matthews. So that's fun.
Oh, yeah. Because he might be bye-bye. And then what? Are you going to follow him?
It depends on where he goes. Okay. Because I'm not going to be a Blackhawks fan. I'm not going to be a Red Wings fan. I'm not going to be all these places. So if he goes to a trash team that I am not, for, then I will just continue being a Maple Leafs fan. The ideal is that he goes to Los Angeles, but,
Oh, that would be.
We'll see.
That would be glorious,
wouldn't it?
Yes. How about you? What have you been up to?
Oh, I'm pretty boring. I don't have kids or anything, so I think the coolest thing that happened is that I figured out that I live close to the Lost Boys Bridge. Yes. And ever since then, in my head, I'm 10 times cooler, but Yeah, that's about that's all
No,
I
you
got
are.
this month.
I need to see it next time I come visit. Like, we're gonna come and visit you guys for New Year's, so we
Oh,
need to
really?
take a walk. Yeah,
Yay!
yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna spend New Year's with y'all. So,
Oh, so we're gonna do the podcast in person.
yeah. Oh my God, a live event. Okay, it'll be
We're
fun.
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out how to do that, but
Yes.
we got 6 months to figure it out. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we'll have some followers by then. Hey, that'd be nice.
Wouldn't that be great?
That'd be lovely. So we'll see.
We'll see. So, joking aside, we did read a pretty trigger-heavy book this month together.
Yay.
So at least there's that. We had to do it together for the next however long. There's going to be graphic sexual scenes, violence, kink fetish content, horror elements, and depictions of hard kink / edge play. So if you don't want to listen to that, I would recommend going to the next one. This book is Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRoux. It is 493 pages. It is technically horror erotica / dark romance. It is on Kindle Unlimited. The quick synopsis is we get the perspective of Leon, a demon who has been summoned and held captive by the local cult of Ahlborn Liberi, run by Kent Hadley, the head of one of the founding families in this small town. Kent has the grimoire that has the last known physical record of Leon's name, meaning that Leon is forced to do the cult's bidding, at least until the grimoire goes missing. We then get the second perspective of Ray, a paranormal investigator. She is also a college student in her last year that has moved back to her hometown after being gone for several years. She hears whispers and potential paranormal activity and creatures being seen in the local woods, so she tries to catch a real-life phenomenon, paranormal activity, on her camera for her blog. Her best friend Ania gives her the grimoire, and spooky, sexy events ensue.
So I'm gonna first go over the things I enjoyed about the book. So I like the atmosphere of the story. I really could vision the whole Pacific Northwest vibe based on the descriptions. I did feel like I was there, the way she described the weather and the surroundings and everything in that area. I liked it. There was enough, but not too much, which I really did enjoy about descriptions. So I can lose my interest if a book goes on and on about something.
Mm-hmm.
And I can also lose interest if it's not enough. So I think there was a happy medium there with as far as like where we were.
I really liked how descriptive it was too.
Yeah.
I thought the scenes were really easy to put yourself into. Descriptions of the said monsters was actually pretty skin crawling. So
yeah, I could see them in my brain. I like that. I like to be able to see it, because if it's not enough, then I can't quite see it. And if it's too much, I get lost. Like, I'm just at that point, I start reading words without comprehending because I'm bored. So I'm just like word. So this was good. It was a nice mix. Like, it wasn't too much. It was just, it was perfect. Oh, just right. So I did like the descriptive parts, especially the atmosphere of the story, because we were there the whole time. Like, I saw it, you know what I mean? Like, in my head, we were there the whole time. It was
your brain movie.
Yes, my brain movie. I thought it was well written. I really did like the plot. Most of the characters, not all, were intriguing, and I really wanted to know. I wanted to get to know them. I wanted to know a lot about them. So what I did learn, I did enjoy. It was pretty good. I liked the family and their whole thing. Like, they were playing the main character, and I like the way they did that. They did a good job of, like, she knew, like, are they my friends? Are they not? And you kind of know what's going on based on
previous
Leon's perspective, and but I did like it was written well. I will say that. I like the story of Leon. He was a very intriguing character to me, and I enjoyed learning about him, his past, the underworld, everything he's been involved in. I really liked his character a lot. And that's what I liked. So what about you?
So I really liked that everything was, I bring this up every single time I read a romance, but I like that everything was consensual. He always got consent or made sure that Ray was okay with everything that they were doing, basically.
Yes.
She had a safe way out of basically everything. I really liked the tongue knife scene. I tried really hard because I read it before you did to not spoil that situation, but I found the gif of Austin Matthews with his bloody lip, and I'm going to post it on the website because I figured out how. But the entire scene, if you read it, please picture, I always picture Austin Matthews as the main male character, but please picture that situation. Please. Yeah.
Please.
I liked that the cat's name was Cheesecake. I'm a big fan of naming cats after stupid things. I had a cat named Pancakes at one point, so
relatable.
Big points for me. The entire story, well, not the entire story because Night in the Woods does not have sexy smut scenes, but the video game Night in the Woods is very similar in the aspect of it's this college student that goes back home to a mining town. There's like this weird secret society that they're trying to figure out what's going on with it, and a weird thing monster in the mining shaft. It gave me that vibe, and I now want to go back and replay it. So if this is your vibe, go play that game. It's beautiful. It's like a side scroller, and the artwork is just amazing. So that's what I liked about this. What did you not like about this book? Because I feel like it's going to be similar.
Raylan. Oh, the female main character. I could not stand her. I'm sorry. She was impossible. She was constantly putting herself in danger. She was some badass, and I'm independent. I can take care of myself. And then, oopsie, please save me. Stop. She was very typical, like, oh, I'm clumsy. I fell. Oh, I don't know. Just no personality, in my opinion. It really kind of, so I liked Leon.
Mm-hmm.
But this demon who's been roaming the earth and the underworld for ages, that's who did it.
That's
like,
who he's connected to? What?
Her? Like, I wish she had more depth, like something more than, she was just
what
insufferable.
Do they call it? They call it Too Dumb to Live. It's like this horrible thing that happens with horror main female characters that like they just always make the dumb decision. And he kept telling her that his protection came with limits, and then she just kept being like, oh, I hope he saves me.
Yeah. And then the fact that he would be like, if you stay in this place, you are safe. And he's saying this. He's a freaking demon.
He's a demon.
He's a demon. You're not stronger than him. Yeah. If he is telling you to do something, how about you do it?
How about, or maybe don't do it. Or that he's telling you not to do.
Yeah, do what he tells you.
Yeah.
You want me to stay here? I'm gonna stay right here.
Absolutely. Can you bring me a book, please?
And you could still, and you can still like make a story with that. Have all the thoughts that are going through her mind, what she's picturing happening to him. There is places you can go without her being an idiot in the book. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
They could have done plenty. Like, I don't know if that didn't make more action. That just pissed me off. Like, so I think the character was supposed to be likable, but I didn't like her. So
I also felt weird about them saying that she was like a paranormal investigator and she had like this YouTube following and all of this, and then it like doesn't have anything to do with the latter part of the story whatsoever. It gets to that one point that she meets Leon and then never again.
So it's like, why?
Yeah, what's the point?
Like, what? I guess because there were certain times where it was convenient she was recording things, I could say, but they could have, I don't know. It was kind of they made it such a big part of the story in the beginning, and then it did fall off. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I felt the same way. And then another thing, we barely got to know her. Everly, I loved her. I didn't even know her. I loved her. She's drawn her little tarot cards. She's freaking cool as hell. I wanted to get to know her. Like, I'm like, I don't know anything about her, and she's a pretty big part of the story. And I liked her character. The little speck you get to know about her, I'm like, there's something with her. Like, there's something about her. And I know book is part of a series, so maybe in another book it will. I'm not going to find out because I honestly didn't like care about this book enough to want to continue the series.
Yes.
But I do wish we would have gotten to know her a little better. I think I would have liked her a lot. I think I like wanted the little things about her, like this should have been Ray.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I just wish we would have gotten to know her a little bit better, because I feel like she would have a really cool story as far as, you know, who she is.
I do think that the second book is about her.
Okay.
And like it is kind of like a in-between story, like what's happening with her at the same time as what's happening with Ray. But you're right. I don't feel compelled enough to read the second book because the first one was meh.
Yeah, very much. That's what I wrote when writing about this book. I said, overall, it isn't awful by any means, but to me, it was very meh.
Yes.
Which, it's just, that's how I sum it up. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't the worst book I've ever read, but nothing stuck out. Nothing was really memorable. I wasn't excited every night. Like, and it was, you know, it's, if they would have written Ray better, I think I would have enjoyed the book a lot more, because I'm like, oh, what stupid shit is she going to do when I open this book today? Like, I was so annoyed. And then it would happen. And I'm like, oh.
I did find myself skipping to like Leon's parts a lot more than like,
was great. Yeah.
Something nitpicky for me, because I mean, it wouldn't be our podcast without me nitpicking at least one thing. But is the comment about not needing a raincoat in California. And this is like one of the first comments. But if you live in California, you know that as soon as it dips below 65, these fuckers are just wearing like the puffiest coats, Uggs, earmuffs for some reason.
It's like a look.
This person has never actually lived in California.
Yeah, where do you live? Yes, because people get excited, like, oh my god, I can wear my winter gear.
Sweater weather.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. I lived there a long time. Yeah, that was funny. Like, did you? I don't think the author ever lived there. She went to visit. She like visited, in August and has no idea.
And went to like Universal, and then was like, yeah, this is people. This is right.
This is Californians.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. No. What else did you not care for?
I think, okay, again, very nitpicky, but Leon being called the killer, but then also having done very little actual killing got me kind of frustrated.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so it's this big scary demon, and then he gets basically beat up by another demon. So, like, is he actually a murderer, or is he just, you know, coining the name? But other than that, like, again, it was very meh. It's a romance novel, so of course I don't expect a whole lot of mind-changing, world-changing overall, I feel like, and feel free to correct me here, but it's a good entry into like paranormal romance or like dark romance. It's not quite as dark as maybe like Haunting of Adelaide, but it still gives you kind of like a feeling for it.
Yeah, I just didn't like it. I didn't like her. She's hard to overcome in this book for me.
It did take me a very long time to complete this book.
She's the main character, you know, and well, one of them, I guess, and her and Leon, but it's really hard when you don't like a person. I mean, and what kept me going was Leon.
Yeah.
That's it. Because her, I was like,
why? Yeah. So then, if I liked the main character in Gothicana a whole lot more, and it does have that kind of paranormal, dark academia feel to it too. So that might be something that if you're not into the Too Dumb to Live female character, might be something up your alley.
I'll have to check that one out, because I've seen that one a lot, but I haven't read it. So I like that.
I gave Her Soul to Take 3.33 stars, because, you know, that's half of 666. 4 spice and 4 eye rolls.
I gave it 2.5 stars, 3 spice and 4 eye rolls for sure.
So I read one more book than you this month, so I will take the handlebars and go on to the next one, if you don't mind. Okay.
Nope.
So the next book I read is In the Unlikely Event by L.J. Shen, which I read one of her books last month as well. It is on Kindle Unlimited. It is 368 pages and is considered contemporary romance. There is a scene of male rape, so that's the trigger warning for this book. So we begin with our female main character, Aurora, who goes by Rory, visiting a small town in Ireland to pay respects to her recently deceased dad. The father of the church that he is buried at redirects her to see his grandson, Malachi Doherty, who is a street musician. They share a crazy, adventurous day and end the night with passion and promises. Specifically, if they ever see each other again, they will drop everything and get married. We then pick up 8 years later when Malachi is attending an event at Rory's work. She works as a record label photographer. The work has put this together where they get the news that they have been assigned to a 2-month project together with an up-and-coming rock star back in Ireland at, of course, Malachi's house. He has this huge grudge against Rory for some unknown reason, and throughout the book, we shuffle between past and present, where we get both of the main characters' perspectives and discover the truth of Mal's disdain and what really happened in the 8 years of absence, as well as bits of mystery in Rory's past. What I liked was that I felt that the characters were almost realistic. Malachi does have purple eyes, and I have no idea why. And they have some pretty obvious human flaws. Rory was easy to root for because she seemed very genuine. The story had an element of secrecy, so it kept you reading, why was Malachi so mad? Why did everyone in this town hate Rory? How did she get the scar above her eye? I did really enjoy the random perspectives of other characters throughout the book. You get Rory's mom, you get the dad, you get even a cow and a chocolate bar, which is important. I thought the fight scenes between the two characters were well written and showed how easily it is to forgive someone when you love them. And the male rape scene was very well written. I felt that it covered the topic well and it shows you how it's easy to kind of gloss over when male rape happens, but it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, what I disliked was that I was not the biggest fan of the male main character. He was very pompous and had an overinflated ego. I felt that Rory conceded to him too quickly, and at times it felt like she was even being taken advantage of. Overall, I liked the book. I felt the ending really tied it together well, and would recommend it to readers of the contemporary romance genre that like more alternative characters and interesting sex scenes that may or may not include a chocolate bar. Rating was 4 stars, 4 spices, and 4 eye rolls because purple eyes. Why? Yeah.
That is odd. There's no rhyme or reason for it either, huh?
You can tell that the father of the church is his grandfather because they have the same eye color. That's all I gleaned from.
That is random.
I don't understand why you would put something that is so it doesn't happen at all. It doesn't exist into a story that's supposed to be realistic. Yeah. It's a contemporary romance, so it's not like a paranormal romance or anything that I could see having.
Yeah, where that would make sense.
Right.
More. So do you recommend the book or?
Yeah, sure. I liked it. It gave you the feels. It gave you when I read books, I definitely feel the heart clenching, the stomach tightening. It definitely gave you that, which is what I look for in romance novels.
Yeah.
I fell in love with the main character, so if that's something you're looking for, then yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So on to my book, which is different from yours.
Different, yeah.
It's Penpal by Dathan Auerbach. I think that's how you say it. 243 pages. It's considered a horror thriller. Trigger warning for death, murder, implied pedophilia, and a kidnapping. In
Oh.
Penpal, a man, yeah, no big deal. In Penpal, the pedophilia, it's implied, so it's not like what that means. Yeah, it's not coming out and straight up like describing it. You just know based on what you read, right? It implies it, hence implied pedophilia.
Implied. It happens off page.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
So in Penpal, a man investigates the seemingly unrelated, bizarre, tragic, and horrific occurrences of his childhood in an attempt to finally understand them. Beginning with only fragments of his earliest years, you'll follow the narrator as he discovers that these strange and horrible events are actually part of a single terrifying story that has shaped the entirety of his life and the lives of those around him. If you've ever stayed in the woods just a little too long after dark, if you've ever had the feeling that someone or something was trying to hurt you, if you remember the first friend you ever made and how strong that bond was, then Penpal is a story that you won't soon forget, despite how you might try. What I liked about the book was, so each chapter is like a piece of a puzzle. Okay. So each chapter is like footsteps, and then you find out what that means. And then one's maps, and then you find out why. And it's literally like a puzzle you're putting together. And it's kind of jumbled up, but not in a confusing way. So you do jump from, you don't come to present. It's just like when he's young and when he's even younger and a little bit older and younger, but that sounds confusing. I promise it's not. So yeah, if I could get through it, anyone can. So it's not that hard. Because of that jumping around a little bit, it's kind of, you think you know what's going to happen, right? You're like, oh, I know it's this, but then you'll read another part and you're like, oh, well, it might be this. So I kind of like how it does that to you. You think you know, and then you're like, oof, but it could be this, but it could be that. Oh, it can't be that because of this. So it gets your mind going because it's pieces of a puzzle, right? It's not like outright telling you like this is what's happening or this is what happened at this time, because these are his memories, and your memories as a child are so much different than like when you're an adult and you kind of understand what things are. But as a child, you don't quite understand everything that was going on because you're so young. So going through his memories now as an adult, it's really good. It makes for a good book. It does suck you in. It's a little draining because of the subject matter. It's not really boring. There was some slow parts, but it's not, I would say, overall a boring book. But the farther you get into the story, the more you want to know. You really want to know what happened. That's a big thing. You're like, what is going on? Because there is this like feeling of dread. I don't think that's necessarily bad, because that's what the author was going for. And if he can invoke that feeling in you, like, he did his job. So to me, it's a good thing. As weird as that may sound, it is. He did what he got me having those feelings that he was, I'm sure, aiming for. The descriptions of the scenes in the woods were really well written. I pictured, I lived in Germany for 7 years, and I pictured the Black Forest when he would talk about it. So if you've ever been around woods that are so thick that like you almost, it looks like it's dark. It looks like it's nighttime looking into the woods. I'm sure you've seen that.
It's the Black Forest. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how the Black Forest is. And the way he described the woods as a child that he played in was very reminiscent of that for me. It's a very creepy feeling while he's in the woods, and he doesn't know what's going on, speaking of it as a child, but like being watched and things like that. And it's just, he's just playing with his friends, but then they hear something, but they really don't pay no mind to it. And you're just like, oh no, like, cause you know what's going on reading it. So it's just, oh God, it puts you on edge. The book was also very realistic, which I liked. Well, kind of liked. It could easily happen. It could happen to your kids. It could have happened to you. Like, it's not one of those books. It's kind of an easy.
Far out there.
Yeah, you're reading it like, oh, this could have happened to anyone. Like, it's a little creepy. What I didn't like is the ending was a little rushed, but I understood why. I understood the pace and why the end was a little quick, right? But I would have liked a little more explanation personally. Not that I didn't understand it. It doesn't leave anything open, but I just would have liked to know more personally. It did get a little slow at times, not boring necessarily, but some of the chapters I feel like there was some filler put in, not necessarily in a bad way. It's just some I was like, okay, like, all right, we can move on.
Kind of fill out those
not in a bad way.
243 pages.
Yeah, like, well, yeah, I know it's not even that long, but I was just like, you want to know so bad. So when it starts kind of trailing, you're like, okay, let's get back to it because you really want to know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It can make somebody feel a little sad after reading it. I don't think that's a bad thing personally. I don't read a lot of happily after type books. It's just not my, sometimes it's nice, but it's not something I'm usually attracted to when it comes to books. I did think about the book afterwards. It's, it'll give you that kind of feeling, and you do think about it. You continue to think about it, even though it's fiction. I put that under the dislikes because that's something I think, it's not that I dislike that. Again, the author did his job for sure. Like that, it's not meant to be a happy-go-lucky book, and he definitely conveyed the emotion. You got that, what he was trying to do. It does make you kind of like, you want to read something kind of nice after.
Yeah.
You don't want to go straight into another horror. You might want to just, and that's just how I am personally. I put that in a dislike. It's not necessarily a dislike.
It's just it's preference.
Yeah. And then the only thing, the mom, to me, I don't think she did enough to prevent certain things. Like she hid everything away, and that's like not going to protect your child in the end. That can make it worse, and that's exactly what happens. So her trying to like hide and everything's perfect and nothing's wrong and don't look at this and everything's great and don't worry about that and we're just going to pretend everything's okay. Like, no, you can't hide everything, and that won't always protect your child. It can actually make things worse. So that annoyed me a little bit, but I mean, that's again just one of the characters, and I think that was kind of done on purpose. Would I recommend it? Mind your trigger warnings, but I absolutely would recommend it. It's not funny. There's no happily ever after. It's not a book. It's it's not lighthearted by any stretch of the mind. It's very unique. I enjoyed it. It was written almost like a puzzle that you have to put together, which I did enjoy. It's considered horror thriller. I would say it's a thriller. I didn't see a lot of horror. I didn't think it was like, I guess it's scary in the fact that this could happen, but I don't think it's like when I think of horror, this is not what comes to mind. I see it more as a thriller in my opinion. I gave it 3 stars. Again, I didn't like the mom, and I wish there was a little more detail at the end. Everything else was in such great detail that the end just didn't. I wish there was a little bit more. I think I really would have enjoyed that. There's no spice in the book whatsoever, and I gave it 1 eye roll because mom. But that's it.
Mom. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say that this was based off of a creepypasta at some point.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
It was. Yep. Yeah, I don't know much about creepypasta, but I did read that about the book. It was written after one. Yep.
And then was it kind of like an unreliable narrator situation? Like you were kind of misled in any way?
No, no, I wouldn't say that at all. No.
Well written, all of that fun stuff. Okay.
Yeah, it was written well. The narrator doesn't mislead you. It's just it's a child's memory, and explaining something when you're 5 or explaining something when you're 35, it's very different.
Yeah, right.
So it's kind of I wouldn't say it's misleading, but you don't get, it's really hard to explain because you know what's happening reading it because you're an adult.
Mm-hmm.
But the way the kid's reading it, remembering, the kid's mind, it doesn't mislead you. Okay. I'm having a hard time describing what I'm trying to say, but yeah,
it's just from the consciousness of a child, so of course it's not going to be accurate to what's actually happening. It's just going to be their understanding.
Right, exactly. Okay. Look at that. There, see, you always.
I'm drinking my G Fuel, so my brain power is just off the charts.
I need just that. Kidding. I'm drinking water, so I'm boring. It's hot in Arizona, gotta drink that water.
Is it hot there?
It was 102, I think, today. So that's not terrible. It gets worse, but yeah, it was hot. I mean, I went grocery shopping. No, it was hot. I'm we had a conversation earlier about this. No, it is hot, yes, obviously, but it's sad for me because I'm like, oh no, I think this is bad, and it's not bad for here yet.
Right.
It's bad for most places in the world.
Yeah. I grew up in a place that it got over 100 like maybe 2 times out of the year. So
yeah,
anything that's above like 75 degrees to me is just unbearable. And I live in a hot place.
Yeah, you do. But yeah, it's rough here, but I actually like it. I prefer it to the cold, so I'm weird.
Yeah.
I'm a rarity.
You're
Most
a
people
lizard.
I am. Most people like the cold and they're like, "Oh, you can only take so many layers off." And I'm like, "No, I'm more comfortable." And this is extremes. Like I was in North Dakota. No, thank you. Extreme hot to me is way easier than extreme cold. My opinion, but
I would say I'm the opposite, but I mean, you also grew up in the southern United States and not the South, Southern California, I should say.
Yeah.
So being warm is not necessarily
but like, so did
the worst thing for you.
But like, so do my brothers, and they are like you.
No, Jake is like you.
Jake doesn't like it. Well, he told
Jake
me.
Jake will put on the heat in the mornings. He will tell Jeff that it is too cold.
So Jeff's the one. Jeff's the only weird one.
Yes.
He's the weird one, as usual. No, I'm
weird.
just kidding. No.
That's probably why I married him.
I know. You guys make so much sense. No, that's funny. So what book are you gonna talk about next? What did you read?
Okay, so before I get into the next one, I want to preface that I don't generally read sci-fi, but the Kindle has... I'm going to talk about the Kindle for a little bit, so if you're going to get triggered by this, Stephanie, maybe don't.
It's fine.
I'm just kidding. There's this thing with the Kindle that they have like challenges every 3 months. It's like 16 like achievements that you can get. So I did read this one for one of the achievements. And I wish I would have chosen something else, because like what you were speaking of earlier about like getting depressed after a book, I definitely got depressed with this book. And I read it for the achievement, and it wasn't even on Kindle Unlimited. I paid for this book.
Oh boy.
So this book, it's more of a novella, I guess, is Feed Them Silence by Lee Mandelo. It is 112 pages. It is listed on Goodreads as horror sci-fi, but I didn't get a lot of horror out of it. I got a lot more sci-fi.
Okay.
And I did write in a joke here, but I don't know if it's gonna actually like hit, because I don't know who our target audience is at this point. But I have been on the internet since I was 12 years old. So if anybody else gets this joke, I applaud you. On all levels except physical, I am a wolf. I'm gonna put the GIF in the website as well. The trigger warnings for this one is animal death and descriptions of gore. It is animal gore, so if that makes it easier for you, then there you go. It is set in the near future. The planet is going through some pretty crazy environmental changes. The winters are very harsh, and there are only a few wild wolf packs left. Shen is our main character, and she is a neuroscientist that has found a way to transmit the mind of a wolf into her own in an effort of conservation. If they can figure out how to think like them, they can show the public what it's like to struggle as a wolf, then the thought is they can save them. Or that's how she proposed this situation. However, it is a lot more personal for Shen. She spent her entire childhood daydreaming about being a wolf. Her life work has gotten her as close as she can get. Her marriage is in crumbles, and the devotion she is showing for the wolf, Kate, is speeding up the process. So she's a wolf girl, not a horse girl, that takes things a little too far. Very well written. That's what I liked about this particular book. The descriptions were vivid, well written. The main character was sympathetic while still being very self-centered. For example, she was worried more about what others might think of her impending divorce instead of how to resolve the divorce. I also think that it did tackle animal conservation and the ethics around it without being too preachy. What I disliked is that it was a little over intellectualized for my liking. For example, it used the word qualia over and over and over and over again. Like I every time I came across it, I'm like, oh, again. I understand that is a very specific word that means very specific things, so I guess it's hard to choose a different word, but I mean, could have.
Yeah.
I wish there would have been more details about the mind melds than the infidelity descriptions. Like I kept reading because I wanted to know more about what it was like for Shen to be a wolf. I felt like the times that they did go into the brain, it was very short and not enough. Maybe I am the wolf girl. I don't know. And I think it was just too short. It was just a little over 100 pages to have like any satisfying resolution to it.
Yeah. Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I think people that like maybe Black Mirror or like bleak dystopian futures, speculative fiction, I think they would probably enjoy it. Again, it's not always something that I reach for. I mean, I do love Doctor Who, but that's more of the meme instead of the sci-fi part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was well written. I think there's people out there that would definitely enjoy it a lot more than I did because I gave it 3 stars.
Yeah.
It didn't have any spice. There was an incident of like a scene or two that was on the verge of it, but it was mostly like the animalistic, like
primal
lust in like the human instinct way. So it's not necessarily like spicy. It's just
right,
an urge. Yeah. And there was no eye rolls, just a lot of why? But why?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so that book sounds really interesting. It just kind of sucks to hear that you don't get to be in the wolf mind thing as much, because I remember you told me about this book briefly, and that was the part that I was intrigued by the most. It's like, oh, that would be pretty interesting perspective. So that kind of sucks that it didn't get into
and
that as much.
You do get like it's more of like a feeling instead of like intellectualizing what, because wolves can't talk, but you do get like the feeling of what it's like to be in a pack, the worries that wolves could possibly have. So it was very interesting, and I was kind of bummed that there wasn't more of it.
Right.
Also, the entire time in my head, I'm like, does she want to fuck this wolf? Are we?
Is this gonna happen?
And then finally at like page 99, I'm like, okay, it's not gonna happen. We're good.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
So no furry situation.
No, that'd be a little much.
A little much.
Our viewers don't want to hear a trigger for that. So
well,
I mean,
I do read some monster romance.
Monsters are different. Okay.
We're good.
Monsters and aliens, totally different.
Totally fine.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mothman, it's fine.
That makes sense.
Yeah. His name is Mothman.
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, man. Okay. Wow. So that's funny. So my next book I'm going to talk about was a bummer. Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Khaw. And not a bummer in like a good way. Like, you know, because of the things I typically read.
Right.
So 128 pages, so it's short. Horror. It's a Heian era mansion stands abandoned, its foundations resting on the bones of a bride, and its walls packed with the remains of the girls sacrificed to keep her company. It's the perfect wedding venue for a group of thrill-seeking friends. But a night of food, drinks, and games quickly spirals into a nightmare. For lurking in the shadows is the ghost bride with a black smile and a hungry heart. And she gets lonely down there in the dirt. Okay, so what I liked about this book, I liked all the, like, it's a haunted Japanese mansion. Yes.
Come on.
Creepy things all around.
All around.
Yes. So it's like all the makings of a great horror. So it was descriptive. I will kind of get into that on my dislikes as well. It was descriptive. I could see some of what she was talking about, and she did have a good way of like explaining the atmosphere and like what you're seeing for some of it, for half of it. And again, I'll get into that in my dislike. I liked how she explained certain things happening in the home. You do get that little like eerie, uncomfortable feeling. Unfortunately, that's like the only things, and I had to like really think about it because it was very short. So what I didn't like is, so there's a lot of Japanese related things, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I don't know how to pronounce these words. I don't know what they mean. I don't know what they are. And there isn't even a clue as to like what it means or what it is. So to me, it seemed almost a bit pretentious. Like I wasn't the intended audience. Like you know what I mean? Like why are you reading this? You should, like, it almost felt like it was written for specific, like if you have that knowledge. Or whatever. Yeah. And not only that, the characters were like pretty flat. They were boring, and there was like these love triangles, but nothing that you cared about. It was very just like, oh god, I don't know. And again, this is a very short book, so maybe with more character development, like if I got to know these characters better, sure, maybe I would have liked it. Or a little more world building as far as like, explain to me what these words are, explain to me what they mean to your culture, what they mean, and how they're embedded in this mansion, and then I can really appreciate this book. It's not that like I don't want to learn or I don't want to know what any of this is. I do. I don't think a lot of people do know off the top of their head. I can't even say the words. You know that like TikTok where they're making fun, like you're reading fantasy and it's like like,
yeah,
that was a lot of this book because I don't. So I think if it was longer and maybe went into more of this stuff, I think it had potential to be great. It was just so rushed, and like I don't know what half the stuff means. So that made it a little annoying.
So it seemed like she cared more about like showing her intelligence as far as like Japanese culture and words instead of developing characters.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And like that's cool, but if you're going to make a book going in, I don't even mind that, but explain that. Like make a longer book and then say that way I know what different things mean. That way I'm not like, should I even be reading this book? You know what I'm saying? Like it just, I don't know. So
if you had a Kindle, you could look up the words.
Just kidding. Could I?
Yeah.
Oh my god. That's so cool.
I'm just kidding. I understand that like obviously not everybody has a Kindle. No, I am, because like that it does, you can't expect your entire audience to have this piece of technology that is going to help them read this book, you know?
Yeah, maybe that was in mind when, I mean, it's not on Kindle Unlimited, so
it's not.
Just the mark there. So
I would have read it already.
So for recommending, I wrote, if you want to recommend it, I wrote, sure, if you're fluent in Japanese and know a lot about the culture, fine, you may really enjoy this. If not, I'm gonna say it's not worth it. To me, even the book overall, there's really no like redeeming qualities to even make it worth it. You know, some things you can like put to the side, like, well, but that's not happening here. There's some creepy stuff, sure. There's just so much other books out there that are 100 times better. And I would love a Japanese inspired book where I can learn stuff. And I mean, Japan is, it's old. There's a lot of history there. I'm sure there's all kinds of awesome. I'm sure what she wrote, had I known what it meant, was probably really cool and creepy and awesome, but I don't know about it. And I don't think a lot of people do. No. So, because of that, I give it 2 stars. Like I said, 1 star is going to be something that completely 100%, I just hated it. It completely wasted my time. Mm-hmm. I won't put it that far because I think maybe for certain people, they probably do like it. I gave it 2. It was very okay. 0 spice. There's no spice in it. And I gave it 2 eye rolls because it did seem very pretentious to me. Like these words would come on and I'm like, oh, here we go again. So that kind of annoyed me about the book. So it was kind of a bummer.
That is a bummer because want to say that it is on T. Kingfisher's like website as far as like, if you liked my books, you should read this book. And it's been on my TBR for a long time. And now, like...
Well, yeah, I mean, you know what? I have it. And if you want to borrow it, you can.
Sure.
I wasn't a fan. But that doesn't mean you won't like it. Everyone's different.
And it's not... I mean, I looked at the Goodreads. A lot of the folks that do read it have the same conclusion that you do, is that it is very pretentious, it's over intellectualized, it's like she basically is trying to show how much words she knows instead of like
yeah, like I get it,
yeah.
I know.
Awesome.
You know about all these things. Cool. But explain them if you do. Like, explain them, make a longer book, and let's get into it, because it's probably super interesting. I just don't know what it is.
And yeah, like, just would it kill you for like 2 extra sentences of like explaining whatever it is?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, I used to watch a lot of anime and read a lot of manga, so maybe I could figure it out, but like I'm not well traversed in it, so I'm sure I would still have some. I'm not an expert, so
yeah. So yeah, it is kind of a bummer.
I like sushi.
You know, I used to hate sushi. We're
Really?
gonna talk about it for a minute.
Yeah,
I did. I guess I kind of like it. I had it recently from Fry's.
Fries
Sushi.
What did you get? California roll?
Oh, well, yeah, the spicy one. Spicy California roll. Okay, so here's my thing with sushi. I did eat it in Korea quite a bit, so I don't hate it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I live here in America, or and I have all the choices, right? That's like the last thing I crave. But sometimes when I'm grocery shopping, it'll just be sitting there, and I'm like, oh, well, I'll grab that, and it's pretty good.
Oh, tasty treat.
But some people love sushi, like they prefer it, and I am not one to prefer it, but I don't mind it.
I only eat the Philadelphia roll or the Philly roll, depending on where you go. That's what it's called.
The cream cheese,
mm-hmm. salmon, and avocado. Sometimes it comes with cucumber. Ask for it without, because I fucking hate cucumber. But like I don't do the California roll. I don't do spicy eel roll. I don't do any of that. I
like the California roll. I don't do the eel.
No. I mean,
fun fact about Bekk here.
Uh-huh.
She thinks cucumbers taste like the rind of a watermelon.
It does.
No,
it tastes like the worst part of a watermelon. Please go eat the white part of a watermelon and tell me if there's any difference.
It is completely different.
I also don't like honeydew melons or cantaloupes at all.
I prefer honeydew.
Yeah.
Why don't you like melons? I'm so sorry. Whoops. Oh my god, I'm so serious.
Taste is bad.
No.
Absolutely. I cannot.
Do you like watermelon?
Okay. I do like watermelon, but
it's
you cannot tell me that watermelon tastes like cantaloupe. Cantaloupe's not even allowed in Riot Fest. That's how much it sucks.
But
neither is crying, so.
I like honeydew better. You don't like honeydew though? Honeydew? No. Okay, this is me with honeydew. I won't necessarily eat like I'm gonna eat all this honeydew melon and that is it. Honeydew. But when you mix it, a mixed fruit salad,
fruit salads at Panera Bread, I scoop all of those melons out.
You go there.
So I work for a medical office, which will get drug representatives, and they will bring you free lunch. I don't go to Panera Bread. Panera Bread comes to me.
Well, I don't know about their fruit salad. Okay.
I scoop all that nasty stuff out.
You can give it to me.
You know who has a really good fruit salad, though? No joke. Chick-fil-A.
Oh, Chick-fil-A. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so good. Yeah. It has like mandarin oranges, strawberries, blueberries.
I love those little cuties. I guess they're not really cuties. They're the syrup oranges are so good. Love them.
Yeah. Mandarin.
Yeah,
right?
Mandarin. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
My daughter Adrian's obsessed with mandarin oranges. She eats them nonstop.
Well,
Yeah,
she's
she loves
smart.
them. She just opens up that plastic thing on the dole and
Yeah.
then spills the juice everywhere and
Mhm.
then eats all
You
the
lick it up.
oranges. Yep.
Yep.
That
You
was
crack
funny.
it open just a little bit, and then you can slurp out that sweet, sweet juice.
That's
So
what I
good.
do with the pineapples.
I used to do that with the peaches too.
See peaches. Me and my brothers, I think, have a peach
Yeah,
thing
because you had a
the
peach tree, right? Yeah.
and it produced all the peaches, and then they'd rot. I mean, my mom's like a clean person, but there was too many. It would just overproduce. Like my mom would collect the peaches and give all the peaches away, and then the next day peaches. So they would sometimes rot, and I think that's why.
Yeah.
My
probably.
brothers used to play with. They found one with maggots in it. They were really little, and they ran up to me, holding it between their thumb and index, squeezing it, saying, "Snaky, snaky." And I was like, "Oh my god, mom!" Because we were all really young. But yeah.
Well, yeah.
Anyways, here I go. This is what I'm good at. I'm talking about
you and I.
fucking peaches.
I mean, we did
with
go
maggots.
off of cucumber to melons to maggots. Got it.
Oh god,
it makes sense.
Sounds like some of the books we read.
Well, that is actually an interesting thing because I meant to bring up. I figured out this month because I was thinking about it that you and I are willing to read off the wall books. You are more of the gross horror, gore, and I will read all the smut.
Speaking of weird smut, Bekk, what book will we be talking about next?
That was my transition.
Oh, that was your segue. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I read the Kraken Sacrifice because I wanted to get over that other book that made me cry, like ugly cry at the end. Mm-hmm. And I am one of those people that does need to break out my books because I do get depressed.
Yeah.
I'm a sensitive. So this is the Kraken Sacrifice. It is by Katee Robert. Mm-hmm. It is on Kindle Unlimited. It is hold on, let me get to it. It is 182 pages. I also chose this book because it is a shorter book, and I knew one of the books that I read this month was going to be longer, so I kind of wanted to make sure I hit the quota, and then I went over anyway. But it is a fantasy romance, monster romance. Obviously, you get some scenes with the Kraken. The trigger warnings are abuse, neglect, abortion, grief, mentions of body shaming, and overtly sexual themes, obviously. So, synopsis is Catalina makes a deal with a demon, 7 years serving in the demon world, and you can get whatever your heart desires. She chose money, which I probably would too. She has nothing keeping her in the human world, so it's an easy choice for her. But apparently when she gets there, there's this like whole human bride to a monster king story, like territory, whatever. There's like a map in the book too. I didn't really get into that as much. I'm going to be really honest. I did not read it for the plot. There are some concerning actions that are taken by the male main character, and the female main character is pretty broken from past traumas. What I did like is it was a really quick read. It did get me out of the depression the last book gave me. What I didn't like was the conflict of do they or don't they end up together, like at the 77% of the book. I would recommend it if you are curious what that tentacle do.
So that's in there, huh?
Yeah. It sure is. And it's prehensile, so it can move independently. Yes. 2.5 stars, 5 spice because it was basically every other page. And 4 eye rolls because for some reason female main characters are always dumb.
Yeah, they are. They really are. They need to change that.
A lot of them are, and I think that's why like this one didn't bother me so much, is because there's only 182 pages, and I I'm gonna be honest, I did skip to the fun scenes on this one. I wasn't really, I didn't find the world to be enough that I was interested in the mechanics of it or any of that. I just wanted some dirty monster sex, I guess.
You're like, let's see them tentacles.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's great. So I'll be talking about Brother.
On a darker note.
A little bit darker. Brother by Ania Ahlborn. 319 pages and horror.
She's the one that wrote Seed, right?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Yes, she's written a lot of books, a lot that I now want to read because she is amazing. But trigger warnings for murder, incest, sexual assault, rape, cannibalism, animal death, torture, all the things. They're in this book.
Okay.
But not, I'll get to it. I'll talk about it. Okay. So this is what it's about. Deep in the heart of Appalachia stands a crooked farmhouse miles from any road. The Morrows keep to themselves, and it's served them well so far. When girls go missing off the side of the highway, the cops don't knock on their door, which is a good thing, seeing as to what's buried in the Morrows' backyard. The 19-year-old Michael Morrow isn't like the rest of his family. He doesn't take pleasure in the screams that echo through the trees. Michael pines for normalcy, and he's sure that someday he'll see the world beyond West Virginia. When he meets Alice, a pretty girl working at a record shop in small nearby town of Dahlia, he's immediately smitten. For a moment, he nearly forgets about the monster he's become. But his brother Rebel is all too eager to remind Michael of his place. This book is heavy, okay? It's a hard read. It's really hard. It's really good. It's well written, hard to read though, so trigger warnings. But it is well worth it. You root for Michael the whole time. He's done things. He's not innocent, but was also adopted at about 3 or 4 years old. So he's been raised in this home. He's been brainwashed in this home. Everything he's done, he has been forced. So you gotta understand that. And you know, reading the book, you do understand that. But again, like, it's not like he can just turn his life around. It's kind of over for him, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't want to be part of it, but he's stuck in it, right? And it's so hard to read, but it's so good. I don't want to give anything away, but it's just such a sad book. Sorry, I'm just thinking about it. So he is adopted by this family, and he does get a closeness with with 2 of the sisters in the book. The brother, though, just blames everything that went wrong on him, everything that's gone wrong in that house on him. So his brother kind of has him in check, and he does everything his brother says. He's terrified of his brother. So he does everything his brother says. The mother is like the ringleader of the group. There's specific girls that she wants, and she gets them. And he learns how to hunt at a young age, and he learns how to skin and cut up the meat of the animals to eat, right? They live in the middle of nowhere. Because of this skill that they forced him to learn, there's a point where they lock him up with a body, and he is not allowed to leave until he cuts that body up for them to eat. So and you go through his thought process when you're reading this. You go through, it's just so, it's a really tough read, but it is such a good book because the plot is incredible. The end is wild. I did kind of figure out what was going to happen, but it's still a shock when you read it, even though you kind of know. I think most people probably have an idea of what's going on, but when it does happen, the twist, if you will, it's pretty wild to read it. It's just, it's a mind fuck, bro, but it's good. It's really good. If you like horror, this is not one I recommend if you're just getting into it. This is dark. It's not as bad as like Dead Inside is a book I will not read again. I read it. I know. I read it. There was a part in it that it was too much for me. I have a limit. This isn't it. This isn't like beyond the limits or anything, but it's pretty gruesome. But it is so good that if you can handle those triggers, because mental health is what's most important, your mental health.
Absolutely.
But if you can please, you should read it because it's an amazing book, and I want to read everything Ania Ahlborn has written now. So I gave it 4 stars. 2 spice, but it's not the good kind. It's in there. It's not, again, it's pretty bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad. No eye rolls. The animal death, I will say, it's not torture, and it's an animal that some people do eat. So it's not something to...
Some people?
I think in that area,
Okay. Maybe.
It's nothing too... I don't think it's too much. It's not like their dog, or the pet cat. Okay, It's not that.
Got it.
I don't want to give it. I don't want to give things away. So.
Right. So I read Seed by her, and I guess I can speak on that. She does write very well. You do get a sense of dread, and I will say Seed was also one of those that you kind of figured out what the ending was going to be pretty early on. So maybe it's just her style.
Well, with this book, I know it was like, God, what's happening can't be happening. Like in my brain, I'm like, that can't be it. That's too much. And then it was. And then
it was the thing.
And the way she revealed it, it was very good. It was well written. How she, even though like I knew, the revelation of it was written brilliantly. Like it was good.
Oh yeah. Good. I would say the same thing with Seed. The big show of the ending or whatever is very much like, oh, yep, got it.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how this was. You root for Michael in this book. God,
the entire time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. You read some of the. He's not as bad as the others in the family. I put it that way because everything he does, he's pretty much has been forced to do.
Got it.
I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, you got to also. Some people, I would never, and I'm not saying I would, but what I'm saying is when you're brainwashed from a very young age to believe, this or else, it is what it is. I could kind of see what was happening though, especially with the brother, because the brother is pretty brutal. And there's parts of this book where you're like, why is he being nice? And then it all kind of makes sense later on. So again, I do not want to give anything away because maybe some people will read it and not see it, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend it. If you can get through the triggers, because they're pretty intense. It is a phenomenal book, written well. I want to read everything. I have Seed. I haven't read it yet, but I do have it. I have seen other people on Book talk about this, and this is their favorite by her. So we'll see. Oh. But yeah, there's a guy, and I'll have to get his name and give him a shout out in the next cast, but I follow him on Book Talk and I love his recommendations, and this was one of his recommendations, and he also said it was his favorite book by Ania Ahlborn. So I didn't really explain it a lot, what I liked and disliked. I loved it. I really didn't. I gave it 4 stars. It's really hard for me to give 5 stars. I don't think I have. So it has to really like be perfect, like hit all the things, and this wasn't. It was 4 stars. It was really good. Very trigger heavy. That is so important. Like, I know the curiosity, could get the best of you, but if there's even like the slightest bit in your brain, like, I don't know if I could handle that, probably don't, or ease into the category a little bit before going straight to this. I wouldn't recommend this start off into the horror
the first
genre. Yeah, no, not by any. Don't do that. No, it's too much. It's too much, in my opinion. So. Yeah, but it's good. It's a great book. If you get there and you can, go for it. So what's going on next?
So I was going to talk
for us
more about hockey, but I feel like we spoke a lot about it earlier.
Oh yeah, we did.
That's okay. So again, very depressed that our teams are out of the playoffs. So I decided that I was going to find a hockey book to love. Until I Get You by Contreras is a dark hockey romance. There is a time that I started reading it and then I was like, I roll. So I put it on pause, read the last book, and then came back to this one. Synopsis is, we follow Lachlan Duke and Lila James. They meet in college at a party. Lachlan is a total player. He becomes quickly obsessed with Lila because she is not like other girls. She completely ignores him, which no girls ignore him. So Lila is very closed off, and we gather that some things have happened to her. She has some emotional baggage, but nothing can stop Lachlan from trying to get close to her. When he finally does, he feels like everything he has ever wanted is coming to a reality. A championship, a draft, and a girlfriend. But then Lila just disappears without a trace, leaving him heartbroken and angry. The story picks up 3 years later, where he finds her again and decides to make her pay for what she did to him. I feel like that's a little not honest, because he doesn't hurt her or anything. He's just kind of a dick.
No.
Not to
so like how
it.
anyone would ask.
Yeah.
Or act, I'm sorry, after bouncing for 3 years and
right. Okay. Yeah. So what I did like was hockey, obviously. Yes. It's got car, office, and angry sex, all the scenes. So he always gets consent. He is also a complete simp. As soon as he shows interest in her, like, just a simp, which I love. I don't know if anybody else does, but he also, the description of him, I'm going to describe him for you, and then you tell me who you think he looks like, okay?
Okay.
He has olive skin, dark brown hair that reaches his shoulders, and green-brown eyes.
Oh my god, it's Boston Cashews.
It's Boston Cashews. So I didn't even have to pretend that
that's wonderful.
The description matched up. What I didn't like list is I hate the not like other girls trope. She was wearing a Harry Styles t-shirt and listening to Taylor Swift, but she was not like other girls. So like
oof.
Big oof, right? Like you can't tell me that she's not like other girls and then she's like into the most popular shit. Whatever.
Yeah.
And then the male main character was a little too much for me at the beginning because, like, it just went on and on about how often he gets laid and how girls are always all over him. And
that's so cringy.
I hate it. Like,
can you have some humble pie, bro?
Just a little bit, and like
a little bit. You can be confident, but
right?
Like,
there's a fine line for sure.
Yeah, I think the author's trying to get across just how, but like, don't do it that way.
Exactly, right?
I don't like that. Yeah.
Like,
anyway.
Yeah, I feel like there is a better way of maybe going about it. Like,
yeah,
I think one of my questions usually for like book reviews is like, if you were to write it, what would you do differently? And that's definitely one of the things I would have tried to do differently. Like, obviously, hockey players and like pro athletes are going to have some of that like puck bunny situation going on, but there's a line. Like, I don't
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
I would recommend it. Like, I like kissy books. Sometimes they're going to be cringe, and that's just something you're going to have to live with. So if you like kissy books and you can get over cringe, go for it. But again, I don't rate kissy books very high, except for Paladin's Grace. But because they're just not life-changing or like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the vibe's there. Like, you get the vibe. So 3 stars, 4 spice, and like 5 out of 5 eye rolls.
5 out of 5. Okay, so you've read 2 hockey romances so far, am I correct?
Yes, correct.
And which one did you like better?
I'm
kind of waiting for you to read them all and then tell me which one I need to read.
So there is one, I think it's called The Pucking Wrong Number, and I think that one is next. I think that one is probably going to be well, I can't really say, but from what I've heard, she accidentally texts the NHL player and like he ends up being obsessed with her. So I feel like that one will probably be the best.
Nice.
This book actually didn't have a whole lot of actual hockey in it. I mean, there was scenes of him playing hockey and like, oh my god, the sin bin conversation and puck bunnies and like it was kind of at the point where it's like, okay, I get it, you read about hockey.
yeah good for you.
Good for you.
Good
You did
job.
your research on this one book. But that's
Yeah.
not actually how, I don't know, hockey fans actually
No,
talk.
hockey culture is very different. Yeah.
Very, very different. I mean, I've been married to Jeff for 9 years now, and we've been together for almost 11. So, like, I've been part of the hockey world for that long, and it, like, never have I come across a conversation like that, I guess.
No, and Jeff used to play. Like, you used to go to games, and it's they try sometimes.
Yeah. Well. Do you have anything else?
I don't.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of S&B Monthly. We hope you enjoyed our chat this month. All books discussed will be in the show notes as well as on the website. Next month, we'll be reading The God of Wrath and Lies, right?
Yes. I'm excited for it, yeah.
By K.M. Marinova. So if you would like to read along, that's what we will be doing. What are you currently reading?
So I was reading Dark Notes. I literally just finished it. So we're gonna save that for next month's review. And I'm actually gonna be starting The Troop by Nick Cutter tonight, and then after that I'll be reading The God of Wrath and Lies.
Oh, okay.
What are you reading right now?
I am reading American Gods by Neil Gaiman. So we have those books to look forward to next time as well. And as always, if you want to support the podcast and help us grow our audience, please subscribe and share with anyone and everyone. They can decide if they like us or not, I guess.
And that's all we have for today. I'm your host, Stephanie.
And I'm Bekk.
And this has been S&B Monthly. See you in the next chapter.